I mean, 3 o'clock. Well, let me.
Say, pledge allegiance. Party here.
Pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Ah. All right.
Hey, I have a couple of announcements before we get started. We'll see Kristen Miles is on the Zoom screen there with us, and hello, great, he'll be joining us in the conversation here in a minute. So just to give you an update on the lawsuits, so the Jewel litigation has resolved. We're waiting for a press release from the attorneys on that. They've settled. And so we will receive a monetary settlement on that. But because they settled, there are some stipulations about how those funds are to be used.
Mhm.
And so it is in relation to monitoring devices like technology, vaping sensors, that kind of thing, or cessation and education programs for kids who might be experiencing addiction issues because of vaping and that kind of thing. So we'll have more information of that to come. The social media lawsuit jumped the gun quicker than I expected.
Yeah.
The attorneys filed it on Thursday, pretty late afternoon, early evening, and so I had intended to share with you that tonight that it was coming, but we have some news stations that apparently are reading legal documents because they have nothing else to do. And so I've been interviewed by several news sources in the last couple of days, and we're finalizing a press release. It should go out tonight, also with a copy of the lawsuit. We'll have it posted on our social media and our webpage. I can share with you that staff resoundingly supporting what we're doing. And multiple parents and other family members of the community supporting what we're doing. So there's some, negativities on Facebook, which that is to be expected. But we respond with facts. As again, this is not costing the district anything to participate in. And if we win or they settle, the attorneys get paid based on that. And I think that it is going to be along the same lines as the Jewel, what happened there. So we've got Salem Kaiser's filed and Seattle has filed this particular lawsuit. And then once it starts gathering momentum, other districts will join in on a conglomeration. Or
We were one of the first.
we were, and it was because of the participation in Jewel after the attorney started talking to us
That's right. Yes.
about who we were and what our little town looked like and who our kids were. Then they wanted to ask some questions of counselors and admin. So we had a separate meeting on that. And when they started to dive into the types of situations our counselors are dealing with, social and mental pressures that our kids have because of the constant barrage of social media stressors, they felt like we were a very good representation of what real world America is dealing with in terms of trying to protect their kids from these large corporations who, so,
Eye-opening stuff for a lot of people.
yeah, I mean, and I think it also demonstrates that there is communities have power, even small communities. And so we are engaging in your vision statement right there.
Yeah.
Global community beyond Jervis. So that's been very time consuming the last couple of days. You'll notice that we don't have the turf update on this packet. This wasn't enough time with spring, we had lots of people out for spring break and trying to gather information. So we'll have that at our April board meeting. And then just to keep you guys in the loop, we notified staff yesterday and the parents that are impacted by this decision, but we will be closing the daycare after this year. It is not sustainable in terms of not requiring general fund dollars. The amount we would have to charge parents to cover the costs, it would be prohibitive. And so right now, again, we're operating about $35,000 in the hole on that. We've used ESSER 3 money the last couple of years to backfill that because we knew that that was a resource that many of our families or staff members needed. But with ESSER running out and us looking at making the kinds of cuts we're making because of the governor's budget, we felt that it was, it's not a program that is covered in your general fund. And so, and we don't get any funding for those kids. So,
So the state steps up and takes.
yeah,
that
until
point.
daycare, daycare becomes a funded source, which could happen in another social service agency program. We've just decided that we have to use that $35,000 pays for half of the teacher or a full-time instructional assistant. So,
So staff will not have that capability either then at that point?
no, we'll be
So
closing
it'll
it.
be
Yeah.
closed completely.
And that's why we let them know now, because we wanted them to
Yeah.
have plenty of time to look
Or
for
look at that.
options. We have heard that a private daycare is opening. And so we have been trying to connect people with
Oh, here
that,
now?
in
Oh,
town. So
that's
we're
good.
trying to connect that. And Creighton, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure, and I'll just say that regarding the staff that are impacted, we only have 4 staff members with daycare children that would be attending daycare next year. So it's not a large number of staff compared to the amount of money that's being used to keep the program open. And I sat down with all 4 of those staff members, their moms. I sat down with all 4 of them today to explain it to them face to face and kind of give them the honor of explaining the why behind the decision and those kinds of things. And they fully understood. It obviously wasn't it's not terrific news to deliver. But I thought giving it to them face to face and honoring them that way was appropriate, and they understood and they appreciated it. So again, it's not a large number of staff that we're talking about being impacted, but those that were, they got individual attention from me to be able to sit down and talk it through.
And remind me, how many total kids were in the program, Craig?
So we can full staff at 12. At one point earlier this year, we had 11. We are, since the start of the year, we've had a number of folks that have pulled out of the program just because of financial issues on their own end and things like that. So as of right now, we have 9, and of the 9, 4 of them are promoting up to preschool next year, which left us with 5 coming in next year. One of those 5, that family's moving to Salem Kaiser over the summer, which left us with 4 returning next year. And we don't have anybody that's actively on a wait list right now that would have added to that 4. So it would have been unless we would have really promoted it hard, we probably would have been downsized already.
All right,
And those staff members that want to remain within the district will more than likely be able to find positions for them. There are open positions right now that they can fill. So if they want to keep working for the district, we'll be able to facilitate that. There are some who are choosing. We already knew that we're going to be resigning. So
all right.
That was gonna be my next question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we've got some openings in the preschool department and some other things, and I've already worked with preschool program coordinator Beth Flores and some others, and we think that we'll be able to maintain their positions. They'll just, instead of working in the daycare, they'll just work more in the preschool environment.
Thanks.
Thank you.
okay, well, next on our agenda is Kristen and the scholarship and our reviewing of the data. And so Kristen, you want to go ahead and kind of jump in here and we'll go from there?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. I'm remote tonight because I'm not going to have a big role in all of this. What I'll say is that, so this is our last session together, and what we'll be hoping to do tonight, you're gonna be seeing some data still about your English learner students. What I want you to be thinking about, and what I'm hoping that we'll leave with tonight to really wrap up the scholarship program, is looking at, so as the district goes forward and does this work, we always ask, what is the board's role in the work? What do Dandy and her team need from you? But like, how do you ask the smart questions? what is your role in monitoring this work as it goes forward? So what I would like you to be thinking about as you are hearing more about the data and more about the work coming forward is we're gonna be looking at building a monitoring plan. So what kind of data is gonna be coming to you at what points in the year? Because I would like you to be building into your agendas, okay, we're gonna be getting, you know, this kind of data at this point in the year. And this is what we'll be looking at. So we know that in, you know, next, and I'm making this up, you know, next February, we're looking at this, or, you know, at the beginning of the year, we're, you know, the district is getting some baseline data here. And the next time we look at it is here. And so that when you plan forward, you're planning with Dandy and her team about what you're expecting throughout the year. And that's the point of monitoring. And then, you know, looking at what kind of questions can you ask as a board to do that monitoring? What are the big board role questions that go along with your mission, vision, your strategic priorities, that kind of thing. So, so as you listen to this, as this data presentation, that's what I want you to be thinking about, so that at the end we can talk about, or as you're hearing throughout, we can talk about what might you build into your calendar as you go forward this year and next. How's that sound?
Great.
Thanks.
Okay.
So you have in front of you, I'm going to share it on for my screen as well, if I can find it. Let's see here, let me minimize, get to the data screen there. Okay, on share. So this is just sharing the screen of what you have in front of you in terms of some of the data of our emerging bilingual populations. And this not only does it, the sheet says third grade, but it also has data points for 5th grade and 8th grade. And if you look at, well, let's look at this dark line here is the entire state. So over the course of the last several years, how has, as a whole population, emerging bilingual kids done on their SBAC scores or ELPA scores? And then how did we do as a comparison, as a comparison? And so again, this isn't going to be shocking because of what's happened with the pandemic. And so if you looked at, say, for example, 3rd grade scores from 2018-19, you'll see that we were at 25.7%, but we'd grown the last 3 years that we were making steady progress. And then it falls off the cliff to 15.6% last year. Now, also remember that we didn't have a lot of people participating in assessments last year. So it's skewed on many levels, represents 2+ years of disrupted academics, as well as people not testing. So, and when you compare that number, 15.6, to our all student data, remember, we also talked about that because our subgroup populations are so low that they very closely monitor all student data. So as an overall body, we did not perform well last year. But if you look at 5th grade, again, they had been, I can't say what was happening in 5th grade. Like I can't tell you why this data is all over the chart, but then 5%, I would say that is completely indicative of people not taking the test, because it's not that only 5% of the kids had the basic skills to pass the 5th grade assessment. Go ahead, Creighton.
And I'll just share, because we're specifically talking about the number of students that are taking the ELPA. We this year we were really intentional about ensuring that we absolutely maximize the number of ELs that are taking the ELPA, because we knew that that's important data for us. And so I know I can report that that the high school and the middle school before spring break was 100% complete. So every EL at the high school and middle school that was available to take the ELPA, they took the ELPA test. And then we went into spring break with only 4 elementary students that still needed to be tested. 2 of the 4 completed it today. The other 2 will complete it on Wednesday or Thursday. So in a very strong deviation from previous years, we actually expect to finish this year with near 100% completion rate for ELPA students for taking the test this year.
And Creighton, you said, when did they take those tests? They took them
We-
when?
We started right around mid-February and we ended the majority of them right going into spring break, and then we have all the way up until this Friday. So this Friday the test closes. We knew that, so we knew we'd have a couple of extra kids this week, but it lasted about 6 weeks, mid-February to right up to spring break.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, I have a question. When I look at that all students though, what's that made up of?
Anyone who identify, go, Creighton, did you want to, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I wasn't about to. I was snapping to my 3.5-year-old. He was
Oh.
gonna try to answer the question.
Sometimes kids do have the answers. So it would be, any kid in any of the smaller subgroups that are maybe testing with this data.
Okay, so that includes high school too.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm looking at those scores and
Yeah.
I'm like, that
Yeah.
doesn't seem to.
Yeah, right. That's what it is. Thank you.
Yeah, and
So,
those are small percentages, and like we sat down as an ELD team in late January with all the ELD teachers and myself and said, what's our strategy? How are we gonna do this? I checked in with the ELD teachers once every 2 weeks, give me, a check-in, where are we at on the testing? Who do we have left? Dr. Atwood was really positive in being able to help us out and making sure we're staying on pace with it as well. So we really attacked it from a different angle this year and it was really successful.
Perfect.
Hopefully that translates into more kids passing, but we won't know that for a while. We do know that as kids get older, it's harder, but then we've talked about that discouraging factor that they have, that the mindset of I can't do it
Right.
and moving it to I can't do it yet. And so that, that's where we're at with this piece. And then if you look at the 9th grade on track, great, did it flip for you?
It did, yes.
Okay, very good. So again, 9th grade on track is that at the end of their 9th grade year, how many kids finished the year with, I think it's 6 credits towards graduation. They're pretty much on track. And so you can see that the state for last year was 82%, almost 83%. For us, our emerging bilingual kids, 53.8%, and all of our students, 74%. And so we know that 9th grade is a struggle for our kids. And that has been true even prior to the pandemic. Whether it's the transition or the lack of understanding about having to earn credits and passing your classes now matters. So that 9th grade on track data point has always been a little bit problematic for this district, but then it turns around. And by the time we get to the senior year, the kids are earning their credits and they're able to graduate in their 4-year cohort or 5th year. And so, Andrew they have a list of kids they're tracking. They are trying to get them to make up their credits now before we get to the end of the semester, so that they are not having to go to summer school. Because that June summer school time is what we do, because that's part of where the data point ends, is June 30th. Great. Did you want to say anything else about these kiddos?
No, I think that this year, we haven't gotten the data yet this year. And so we're optimistic, we're realistic, but we're optimistic. But I think that the changes that we've made this year, if they don't reflect positively immediately, like we will see positive change 1, 2, 3 years down the road. Sometimes that change lags a little bit. But I think that Dandy's endorsement of everything that we're doing and her support and all of the change we've done, not just with ELD department, but with iReady and all those other variables that help with language acquisition. And, we know that our ELs they're not just learning, English language in their ELD class, they're learning it all day long. And so all of those different variables of change that have happened recently, it's a lot, but it will affect real positive change, if not this year, next year, or the following year. So I think it's, I would just ask the board to hold on, because it's going to be a wild ride as this thing just starts climbing up, higher and higher. I'm excited for it.
I think also that we're putting some emphasis on trying to figure it out is gonna change some things. How many total students are we doing in the EL?
So the numbers change because we've got
Doesn't high.
yeah, we've got a fluctuating population. I would say around 320 ELs district wide, K through 12.
Do you know how many are in the high school, Creighton?
So
I'll-
our yeah, I mean it's roughly about 60, give or take.
So, as we've shared with you before, that if they don't get out within four years of being identified, the likelihood that they get out, deteriorates. We haven't set any targets yet for growth because we felt like both with this chart and then the first one that you looked at, because it's just so low, it would be really hard to set any growth targets that are meaningful. We want to get the data back from this year because we feel like this year is the first normal year in a long time. And it's also the first year that we've really focused on instructional practices, assessment practices. And so that we could get a real, I think after this year's testing results come in, we'll have a clear picture of where our kids really are to then be able to set these realistic goals.
I mean, we've struggled with this for a long time. I mean, from 2015, 16, we weren't even close. I mean, from third to eighth grade. High school, we did better. I mean, we're in those years, then with that 2019 to 21, it just built us.
Yeah.
I mean, and those kids struggle no matter anyway, and then with that, I mean. Well, I'm just glad we saw it and now we're trying to fix it. What else can you do? We're trying.
I think we've been really also purposeful in terms of the different kinds of assessment tools we're implementing, not just relying on SBAC, because SBAC is really a gauge of how your overall instruction is occurring at the building level or at the district level. But by using things like iReady in math and reading and our new Wonders curriculum, which is in reading K-5, using those more timely short-term assessments to gauge growth will help us more rapidly address where our gaps are in instruction and where gaps are for student learning.
Well, I think just by identifying it and trying to figure out what best strategies to use and people using all their brain power to try to figure it out, I think it's fantastic. I mean, no, we need something fixed. And
So one of the things that I would recommend, in June, we revisit our strategic plan, we look at our previous goals, how did they go, reset the strategies. We had built in accountability markers and people, not only people who are responsible for those tasks, but when they would report to the board on those. So that's kind of usually what we use the work sessions for. That's like when you get the update on the equity team's information or iReady data. So I would recommend one of the strategies is that we embed ELD, multiple data points or multiple subgroup data points in each of those work session markers that we give you throughout the year. We do it like quarterly.
that would make sense. I mean, wouldn't it? Need to hear it.
No, from a roadmap perspective, yeah, I mean, you need on a quarterly basis to find out what changes have been implemented, kind of a thing.
And how it's going.
Yes,
So if it's
yeah.
going up, then we know we're doing right. If it's
I mean,
staying the same or going down.
right,
We
and
just need to keep asking the question.
and then another one that I would actually look at is, as Creighton said, if 100% took the test this year, 100% that should be the goal every year.
Yeah.
Because you need to have that in order to be able to look at the data and say, okay, not 90% of our students took it, 100%. And if they didn't take it, then you need to understand why they didn't take it, or we can throw it out, or we can really see the trend analysis that needs to happen.
No, yeah.
But yeah, I think on a quarterly basis, I don't know, that would make sense to me. Your thoughts?
Anything else that you're thinking about that we are missing the mark on, or that you're wondering about in terms of student achievement or performance, or? And if you don't have any right now, that's fine as well. You know, I will continue the conversation up until when we meet with Jerry Colonna to rework the strategic plan that's happening June 22nd, where we're bringing the leadership team together, which includes teachers. And then you'll see a draft of the plan in July before we adopt it. And so if there's something that we've missed, then you can correct that.
I mean, you've already done quite a bit just by implementing the iReady, which I'm assuming the kids, I mean, I'm taking a stab at what iReady is
Right.
overall. But I'm assuming it's a program where they can go in and read and answer questions of
Mhm.
some kind of
Yeah.
assessment, right? I mean,
Yeah.
on their own and on top of in class.
Yeah.
So you've already implemented that. You've implemented, you said the SBAC, which once again, I'm not. Anyways, and then you've done some curriculum stuff. So I mean, there's already 3 strong
Right.
things that have been done. And then obviously, I'm guessing another one that you might want to think about is training
Mhm.
for staff.
Yep.
To me, training staff on this is really important
Mhm.
because then,
See how they come along with it.
exactly.
Yeah. 'Cause I remember Creighton talking about that
Mhm.
you had a little bit of problems with people trying to
Yeah.
implement that into their plans. And when he gave them those one
That-
little survey thing or that question,
Mhm.
Staff development,
yeah.
definitely.
Yep.
No, that's a good one there.
I think it's important, the staff development piece is not just about giving them PD and the different instructional strategies, but also continuing to re-emphasize with them the why.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? Why must you be on board? What do you need from us to get on board? Because this is where we're going, you know, that kind of
Why,
vibe.
why are you having so much pushback?
Yeah.
You are having a problem, then say why.
Right.
And then we'll
Yeah.
try to fix that.
Right.
So,
Okay, Creighton, did you have anything else that you needed clarification on from the board, or do you feel like you're?
Nope, I think that's it, and I agree with the training piece, and I'll just say that this isn't training per se, but we just purchased posters that are gonna go in every classroom, grade 6 through 12, and they're rather large posters, but they essentially, you know, on the y-axis, it will tell us, you know, is it reading, writing, speaking, or listening? And then on the x-axis, it lets us know, is this a new EL, an emerging EL, a higher order EL, like, and then within the grid itself, it gives examples of the kind of answers that the kids should be giving. So if they're a low EL and we're talking reading, here's something that, you know, here's what you should be listening for. Whereas if they're a high EL doing reading, here's something you should be listening for that's a more advanced answer. And the same for writing and speaking and listening. And that's going to go up in every classroom, grade 6 through 12, as just a really easy way for the teachers during their instructional day to be able to look at that poster as a reference, that it's like, oh, I know that this particular student or this particular group has a lot of low-level ELs. And so here's the answers that I'm looking for that shows me that they're processing it and understanding it. You know, or this class has a lot of high ELs, and so their answers should be more complex. And here's examples of what it should sound like. So those are going to go up in all the classrooms within the week or so. And, you know, just another way that we're really trying to support the teachers to understand this work and to implement it, recognizing that there's a lot of things that are asked of them. So if we can make it as, for lack of a better way to say it, if we can make it as simple as possible, they're more likely to buy into it.
Absolutely.
would
I
hope
think
that
the
they-
poster also helps kids understand. Like kids can then see themselves, like, well, okay, where are my answers? Oh, this is where I'm at.
Yep.
This is why. What would it take to get to the next level? You know, it's that visual that kind of helps.
And that's where that iReady helps them,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they can see themselves, they
Yep.
can actually see it moving up. and
Yeah, the
things.
progression.
So, yeah.
Okay, well,
Okay.
Kristen, anything else to add?
I would say, so I was just taking a couple of notes, but it sounded like what you're gonna do is look at your, so just to clarify for me, you're gonna embed some of this data during, is it quarterly reporting that you do with other kinds of reporting that you do? Was that what I'm hearing, Danny?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and so so I think what is it the board can expect in that? Obviously SBAC only comes once a year. What are the kinds of data that you're going to be that you and your team might be reporting to the board during those quarterly reports?
We would be providing, whatever assessment window we're in,
Okay,
we'll be providing the results broken out by focal group so that they can see how different groups of students are performing.
mhm,
And then what adjustments have been made or what supports have been implemented to move the work
Mhm.
forward.
great. And then board, I think that your job is always just to, ask, what is it you need from us? Do you need funds for professional development? And I heard you talk about, training for teachers, professional development. Is there a new curriculum that needs to be adopted? That kind of thing, that your role is in that policy and governance and budget piece. Obviously being informed about how kids are doing, what the focal point is for, Henry, you said it earlier, this is what we're focusing on. You're probably going to see improvement in it. And the board's role is obviously to have informed interest. And then just to keep asking, what is our role? What do you need from us? But I think, the goal was, and Dandy and her team have done so much work on this already. The goal was to come out with a plan for what data are you going to look at what points of the year, and what's the board's role in that. And it sounds like you were putting that together as you go. So, so that is, as you've gone along, you've listened to all of that, you've done that. And that was the focus of your project for this year. So you've done that. So this is the last you'll see of me for this year, unless you need something. That seems like a weird thing to say, but the next thing that I will do is have your check sent to you, so you can determine how you're gonna distribute that funding for kids' scholarships.
Excellent. How much is the check again, Kristen?
I think it's 2,500 for the HALF program.
Okay, that's what I thought too, but I
Yeah.
couldn't remember.
Yeah. So that's the fun part of this,
All
is you
right.
get to determine how you're going to give out that funding. So, if you need anything from me, you know where to find me, and I always, stop by on my way home. Although I don't go to Salem very often anymore, but please let me know if you need anything. It's been a pleasure working with you again, and I'll leave you to the rest of your meeting unless you have any questions or need anything from me.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Kristen.
Kristen. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
So in anticipation of us receiving the check very shortly, I asked Sandra to print out a copy of the previous scholarship application that the board used when they were looking for kids to give the scholarship to. I had her write out the name so you wouldn't know who this was, because we are having trouble locating the original document right now. And so I think if you want to take a look at it, mark it up, give me feedback, whatever that might look like, if we can get it at the next board meeting, which is just in a couple of weeks. And that would give Sandra time to, or the high school secretary, I don't know who's in charge of it, time to reformat it if you wanted to have some different questions when we did action or discussion item. And then you can kind of also come up with the time frame of when you want to have the application available by.
How do they communicate that the scholarship application?
So at the high school, they usually have scholarships posted
Okay.
on certain walls, but they also put in announcements and that kind of thing.
I just
So,
want to make sure
Yep.
that enough people know so
Yes.
they can apply.
yes,
And also I will recuse myself because I'm sure Sophia will apply for it, and I don't want there to be a conflict.
sure. I mean, I think that's happened before where we've had relatives of board members apply for the scholarship, and we just kind of work around that in terms of making sure they're not part of the selection process. So we'll see who applied, and then you can also decide at that meeting how much you want the scholarship to be for.
We're 20.
Well,
We did 500.
500, is that what it says?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
sometimes we had
Oh,
a
there
lot
it
of them and we wanna. like,
Yeah.
parcel it out.
Exactly,
What
yeah.
was interesting in here is that I saw on this particular application, these scholarships could be renewable for an additional year. I have not seen that before.
That was because during this particular year, the board did not give out all of their monies. Remember, there was the
Oh,
year where you
yes,
didn't,
yeah.
so then
We
it
got
rolled.
5,000,
Yeah,
right?
we got 5,000. And so,
That's
Yeah.
what I remember.
yes, and
Yeah.
so that's how they were able to.
But we did two sessions
Mhm,
to get the 5,000, because we had an opportunity to just do 2,500,
mhm.
but it was not that many more hours to do the full 5,000.
Did we have
Mhm.
the opportunity this year?
I
didn't think
know
so.
think so,
we
yeah.
had, because we've already done this at times.
Right,
That,
Yeah.
yeah,
I believe there, we didn't have the opportunity
Yeah.
to do 5.
yeah, and see, and
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but I think it's important for the board to continue.
Yeah.
Applying and redo, you know,
fine.
Yeah.
so it's at least something that we can provide for our students.
And I
So
think
important.
also it provides the board with a mechanism for you to get more involved in the work,
Yes.
which I really appreciate. It's also really helpful for me when I'm trying to go to teaching staff and talk to them about the why and the why they need to engage and the why they need to share the burden of responsibility with me or their administrators about
This
this
is
work.
why,
Yeah,
this is why you
so-
do it.
It's good. All right, well, so yeah, so agreements, any feedback? We'll get on the next board meeting and we'll move forward.
Yep, I'll put my edits in there.
Very exciting. Okay. The next thing on the agenda there, Henry, that's 9.2. The Willamette Career Academy funding. I wanted to share with you a letter that OSBA, so it's in the back of your board packet. So prior to the Willamette ESD going before the Education Subcommittee and asking for additional funding for the Willamette Career Academy, we had conversations with COSA and OSBA and let them know, we're gonna go ask for this funding. We know that it is another ask, you know, when there's limited funds, but this is the why. And COSA was very supportive. They said, go for it. We understand. It's a great project. We got very little feedback from OSBA. And then the day that we testified, so that would have been Monday, the 20th, I guess. Right before Dr. Novotny shut his computer down at the ESD to drive over to the Capitol to meet us, he gets this letter, this email from Richard at OSBA. And basically the email was, hey, this isn't anything negative about Willamette Career Academy. We just don't feel we can support it. And Dr. Novotny was not very happy. And I'm not happy about this letter. I shared with Kristen when we were planning for the board meeting tonight that I was not happy. And there are many reasons that we're not happy about the letter that like Dr. Novotny, myself, and other superintendents is that first of all, no one from OSBA has ever stepped foot in Willamette Career Academy. Secondly, there are 22 school districts that say this is the right work to be doing out of 197. We are the only regional model like this. And so for them to say that it's not a thing is uninformed. The other piece is that while we like to tote this as cutting edge, it's really not cutting edge because other states have been doing this for 30 years. So
What was the why behind not being able to fully support?
because that's not what these funds were designated for. And that if one regional group asks for this, then pretty soon everybody is going to be asking for it. And that then this is really the role of the community colleges and we don't want overlap. And in CTE programming, and my response was, my high school construction class where they're building birdhouses and steps is not the same as construction geometry and getting certified so that you could go to work for a major
That is
contractor.
correct.
Yeah.
And so, and the other example of where this is the role of community colleges, well, for example, we're partnering with Shemeketa, and this again is not a slam against Shemeketa. I understand they have a business to run. But to get our high school students to participate in the Brooks Fire Station EMT program, they're charging us full tuition.
Yeah, and
So for 5 students, it's going to cost us $35,000. Or I can send, this year I'm sending 29 students to WACA, and it costs $125,000 in 6 different programs.
let's not forget also that our kids, especially coming from this community, cannot afford that, and their parents cannot afford
No.
on their own, and this is a way for them to be fully capable of entering the career
Mhm.
world,
The
which is
workforce.
our entire, the purpose of higher education, truly. I mean, so that they can be contributing members of society and take care of themselves. This is nuts.
And there are many parents that do not want their 17-year-old student on a community college campus interacting with adults of all ages,
Exactly.
unsupervised, unprotected. And so it is just a complete lack of knowledge about who they're supposed to be serving. And so I would like to write a letter to Richard,
Oh, heck yeah.
and I can draft it, and then I could bring it to the board for the April meeting, and you can make adjustments but I think that they need to recognize that while there are 197 districts that they serve, there's 22 they just threw under the bus.
Yeah.
So,
We agree.
100.
Yep. Ridiculous.
okay.
You know.
yeah.
I just don't get, I don't get why, where does he want that $2.85 million to go to? Somewhere else?
Yes,
He wants to go
he just
to.
wants it to stick with credit recovery, existing CTE programs.
Early morning system?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not even, I'm just reading through this, it's not even very, the
No.
entire thing isn't helpful. Like, it doesn't even, like, that's why I asked you, like, why? Like, he's not really delivering his, why we don't want to do this for you guys.
The good news, well, he may have this, and so this was the only major agency that came out against our ask, which also tells you something. And then there were 2 other private individuals, retired people, I don't even know who they were, that said that
This is not-
dumbing down a curriculum and, whatever that. And so, while it might get torpedoed, there's another avenue for us to be able to get the money. So our lobbyist is still helping us with this ask. And so I'm still hopeful that there's a pathway forward. But we'll see. Which, I'm gonna share with you that if we don't get the money, our cost to participate in Willamette Career Academy, you'll go up to $172,000 for our slots. And so that if we do receive the money, our costs are $72,000. So it reduces the amount of money I now have for textbooks, for communication, any of the other activities we were wanting to do. So. Okay, that's my good news. So you have your update on the city council meeting, so I have copies of, I think it's the most recent draft.
Has all the numbers in it.
Yeah. I
I
think
don't-
so. That was like one you sent.
I sent you one.
Here you go.
I know, but
I'll keep a copy for you.
Did it not have the numbers in it?
I think
it had some, but there's still.
I think we're all good.
Still one that was missing.
I thought there was one from last time that we talked about that you guys had just gotten.
Yes, the one,
It was the Gear Up grant, right?
the year, yes.
Yeah, it's in here.
Is it in here?
It's under.
I didn't think we had. Because I remember hearing about it at the last. meeting.
Oh, here it is.
Was it?
It's under grants. It's under the first bullet. One grant for 2 year, okay. Another is for 7 years, $100,000. That's the Gear Up grant.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know where we are on the agenda that night?
I do not. I can pull that up and I will text you all.
Okay, because I don't know, this is way too long for a 3-minute on a public.
Oh, I think that you're not public
Thank
comment.
you, I
You're
didn't
on
think
the
so.
agenda.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
especially because Sophia's video.
Yes,
was
and I
really
have
good.
Sophia's video. Here. Oh, come. There she is. On vacation.
Wow.
So it cuts off. Is it supposed to cut off like that?
It cuts off from right here.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So, I don't,
That was it? That was the end?
yeah.
Let me see.
You continue.
No,
To next board. meeting.
obviously I didn't write this thing for her notice.
Very good.
Let me check what she sent me.
Okay,
Um,
Well, she's done a great job.
Sure, I don't know.
I mean,
She was just telling her experience, which I thought was really great, you know, as a student.
Failing.
Holy smoke!
Yeah. Well, good thing we're in here.
so you're on the agenda as,
You know what? Couldn't go into, she sent the second piece to it.
okay,
Let me send that.
okay, very good. So we'll get it passed on to. So you guys are number 8 on the agenda under presentation, city school district partnership. And so I will make sure that Susan gets the other piece now. Okay. I'll do that.
Should we? Okay, I mean, I know we're gonna read this and that's fine, but should we just like outline a couple, like have a PowerPoint with a couple slides?
I was
there.
wondering.
I think we need like 5 slides kind of a thing. And let's just, I mean, put up, something of like a first slide of working together, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's work together.
Work together. And then the next slide of
Maybe, okay, and I'm not saying this in the same order, but the bond tax assistant grant.
Yeah.
Needs to be on there.
that will be the next.
And then the most important, well, not the most important, but important. Would be some of the,
Just
some of these in the grants. We could even put all the grants together in one.
Yeah, you
And
can
just kind of
just,
see the number.
yeah, you just need to have grants and then just put a total number.
Yeah.
And then I'll just talk about each. further.
Go ahead.
But like 3, but you would really do need like 3 or anywhere between 3 and 5,
Yeah,
just for they can and then you talk about it.
yeah, and like a wrap up.
Mhm.
And maybe one of the pictures could be like,
The last picture of the kids.
last picture of the kids, and maybe like a picture of the buildings or a building in one of the starts that's like, doesn't not looking that good, you know what I mean? So they understand
Okay.
what we mean when we're talking about perception based on, what the school looks like.
Okay, okay.
So. And I'm sorry, we should have thought about this in more detail and gotten this to you sooner.
Yeah,
I can't, no, I can get it done. I'll work on it tomorrow, maybe
Okay.
do the draft tomorrow.
Okay.
Then if you can send me the second part of the
Yeah.
video, I will get that to Susie and we'll go
Yeah.
from there. So, I will be in,
We'll put them together.
well, she won't be able to put them together, but she can have them pulled up side by
Yeah.
side.
And that'll be
Keep
okay.
going. Yeah, it'll be fine.
I will be there face to face as well, in the audience, but I'm gonna talk.
Just because I'm so far away, so.
Yeah, you can join virtually.
Yeah.
with your content.
No, I can drive it.
You can virtual and do, don't worry about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not
Yeah,
have a,
all 3 of us are gonna be there
Yeah.
and hopefully the rest of the, everybody will.
And we'll send a reminder to the others about logging in and that kind of thing.
That would be great. And then we're gonna touch base with leadership because Sophia was really the mastermind behind getting all of her friends there
Good.
in the audience, and she's not gonna be there, dude. That's why she did the video.
Can she bully them into going?
Yeah, like text them.
Yeah.
And with having Diego, I'm gonna make
Yeah.
him go and bring his
Well, and
friends.
also it's supposed to be, they're doing the proclamation.
the
Supposed to
girls.
do that.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
And so
Great.
kids
Oh.
can,
Oh, that's
maybe they
okay.
can stay for a while, so.
Yeah,
And I just texted Tucker to remind him.
yeah, just need those warm bodies.
Okay, all right, more to come. We'll get that camera. This will be exciting. I think that's
That's
it.
it. That's it.
So we can adjourn and go into executive session.
Yes.
Ooh.
Anything break or anything, or just going?
I'm good.
Good.
Okay.